Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining my session here today. My name's Eddy Swindell. I'm CRO and co-founder of Fresh Relevance. We're a real-time personalization and optimization platform. We're used by over 500 brands internationally to personalize the customer experience that deepens engagement and drives online conversions. I've got some great content for you today. I'm going to run through what I call our personalization framework. This is a framework that we tend to work with clients who, when they come to us, they often ask the question, what do you think I should do first? What type of personalization do you think I should implement that's really going to help me achieve my objectives? So we've designed this framework to really help answer that question and give a fantastic context that you can use to make some decisions about where to start and how to evolve your personalization to achieve different objectives. The first thing that I'm going to do is actually talk a little bit about Fresh Relevance and explain a bit about who we are and what we do. Then I'm going to run through the personalization framework, and I'm going to finish with some real live examples of what some other e-commerce companies or websites do to really help drive personalization and engagement in the context of this personalization framework. So with no further ado, how does Fresh Relevance work? Well, as I say, we are a real-time personalization and optimization platform. And the way the system works is in real time, we collect all of this behavioral data and content from your website as people are interacting with it. We then have a range of machine learning and AI features that can be applied alongside various content tools to personalize and test and optimize the customer experience across different channels. The tools tend to fall into these main categories. So we often talk about website personalization, email personalization, behavioral triggers, but on the second row down, you can actually see these different areas that we're also very active in. So social proof is a really interesting area. This is really about the concept of people being influenced based on the actions of others. There's all sorts of things that we do inside this area, and I'm going to show you some pretty cool live examples towards the end of the presentation. We're also very active in areas that we call behavioral targeting, so the ability to target individuals based on any kind of behavioral profile on the website. We've got various tools for integrating with other systems in your technology ecosystem. I'll talk about that more in a second. We can handle multiple sites, whether they're distributed geographically or in terms of distributed organization with multiple brands. And we also have very advanced geo-targeting functionality that allows us to personalize the customer experience based on someone's specific location or their proximity to a specific location. Final bit of information about Fresh Relevance is that we have been designed from day one to integrate and interoperate with other tools that you've got in your ecosystem, whether that's an email service provider or marketing automation platform, an e-commerce platform, ratings and reviews or user-generated content platform, or whether you're active on social media. We've got off-the-shelf integrations that allow us to integrate with all of these other tools so that you can leverage all of this data and content really effectively across different channels. So with no further ado, why do we do what we do? Well, really, in the current day, current situation, it's fair to say that all of us are operating in a very, very challenging environment. Actually, even before COVID, it was a fact that over half of searches for any product was starting on Amazon, and a huge number of UK retailers were already in significant financial distress. As well as that, the current challenges of the COVID situation means there are many marketing teams out there and e-commerce teams really having to do more with less. Their teams might be smaller, but actually what they're being asked to do is not smaller. It really is about efficiency and actually getting a lot more done with what could be potentially a smaller team. The situation is changing quite rapidly. Many sites have seen enormous peaks over recent months, but that isn't the same for every online business. Across the Fresh Relevance client base, we see almost a third of clients are having sort of record trading periods, a third are operating business as usual, and a third actually aren't doing so well in the current situation, whether that's because their industry sector they're in, for example, travel or entertainments and leisure. But the basic message is here: there has been a huge shift in online behaviour. Shoppers are being a lot more promiscuous online and actually using online a lot more than they were in the past. It's the first time for many years we've actually spoken about people using online, transacting online for the very first time. And there's a massive growth in older demographics that really just haven't purchased online previously, that are doing more so now. So, what are the themes that we're actually seeing? Well, with this shift, really increased shift online, it is more competitive, and the need to provide a flawless shopping experience is greater than ever. Certainly, with brand new users of a website, challenges are different. Not only does a personalised experience really help, but actually encouraging somebody to transact online for the very first time can be incredibly important. And so when we actually start to look at how brands can keep up with this new landscape, sometimes it really pays to actually have a look at what other companies are doing. I mean, certainly in terms of personalization, there are a number of brands out there that are synonymous with a fantastic personalized experience. And I'm actually just going to pick on one for the time being before we move on and talk a bit about their view on personalization and what they're trying to achieve with that. The brand that I've chosen here is Netflix. Netflix is a really interesting example. Obviously, this isn't an e-commerce company, but they do provide a very, very highly personalised experience, really necessitated by the fact they've got a huge amount of content. And actually, what Netflix say is that their goal is to really help members discover great content, and personalisation is really one of their pillars. It allows each member to have a different view of their content, and that view of their content actually evolves and flexes over time. It allows them not to have one Netflix product, but actually hundreds of millions product. It's quite interesting in that with your Netflix account, it's not just about you, it's actually based on the different profiles that use your account. And so this personalized experience needs to be relevant to each profile, not just the actual account that those profiles exist in. So to really achieve this deep level of personalization, Netflix do combine a multitude of different algorithmic approaches to address each unique member's needs. And this starts on the homepage, but also extends right out through the product and way beyond that, deciding what messages to send their members and how to keep them informed and really engaged. In a nutshell, and this is something that I think many brands can learn from this pillar of personalization that Netflix has in their business, is they want their members to spend less time looking for something to watch and more time watching something that they truly enjoy. The search can be frustrating, but the real pleasure comes in the consumption of the content. So, with that in mind, what really is the common thread that exists with all of these companies that enjoy, or their customers allow their customers to enjoy a really highly personalized experience? And that is, they really understand their customers and they strive to deliver this exceptional customer experience. As Netflix puts it, this customer experience is a pillar of their business and something they talk about every single day. Now, one thing to mention is that it's absolutely about what's right for the customer. But actually, this slide really talks about the intersection of what's right for the customer and what's right for the business. Because a good personalization strategy should be based on executing this fantastic experience for the customer. But A business always has goals and objectives, and stock is not infinite, it's finite. And therefore, the balance needs to be found between creating this optimal customer experience in a way that's actually right for the business. There's no point actually recommending products to an individual that aren't in stock or are likely to run out of stock. So it's imperative that that balance is actually found. So let's talk a bit about the personalization strategy framework. It's been incredibly useful for so many of our clients, and I really hope that you find this useful and you get some fantastic takeaways from it. Now, what we've done with the framework is use a couple of models that people know and love. And the reason why we do that is it's rare that something's adopted by an organization that's completely transformational or revolutionary. What we do today is almost without exception based on what's happened yesterday. And what you're going to do tomorrow is based on the knowledge that you've amassed up until this point today. And so by using a couple of models that people already know and love and fusing those to create a framework actually already provides a platform or a structure that's got a degree of familiarity to most people involved in marketing or e-commerce out there. And the two models that we've actually fused for this personalization strategy framework is what we call a customer journey and also the profiling, segmenting or personification of shoppers or site visitors. Now, let me touch on these two things individually and then show you what the model looks like. So, firstly, with the customer journey, this is a fairly typical but somewhat sanitized customer journey map. And along the x-axis, we can see the stages that a shopper goes through in terms of making a transaction. That's what I'm actually referring to as the journey. On the y-axis, on the left-hand side, you can see different components that need to be considered inside of that journey. Typically, when we talk about customer journeys, some people might just think about the actual touch points. You know, these are the opportunities that we've got where to actually really shape the experience, control the experience with the shopper. It's where they are interacting with your brand. But these need to be cognizant both of the customer goals and also the business goals that need to be achieved inside of those touch points. So the reason why we really love using this customer journey model is it is actually universal, and it can be applied to any particular sector. Every sector has got very similar stages or activity that can be mapped to these similar stages, whether it's retail, travel, media, or a multitude of other sectors. So how is the awareness generated? How are people actually finding out about your brand or your service? What's the consideration process that they go through, irrespective of what sector? How are they actually going to transact or make a decision? After which, how can we actually encourage a degree of loyalty or advocacy, irrespective of what that sector is? So that's the customer journey dimension of the personalization framework. The second dimension is what we call personification or profiling. Now, there are many different ways of achieving this type of view of our customers. Our customer life cycle stage has been a very well-trodden path and an understood model in the past. For example, what is the company objective and how does that map to the customer life cycle stage? Thinking about acquisition, growth, retention, reactivation of lapsed customers. This dimension could equally be mapped to a specific business objective like acquisition or re-engagement, but it can also be mapped to a particular persona. Personification is rather topical at the moment, certainly with how cookies or the use of cookies in particular at the moment, third-party cookies are evolving. It does pay to have a persona-based approach, which can be defined as a personification or a persona allows marketeers to deliver targeted experience to individuals based on their inferred membership or characteristic of a segment, rather than their specific personal identity. But whichever approach is taken to identify different types of customers, whether that's on life cycle stage, customers that are more likely to help a business achieve a specific objective, or a particular persona of shopper, what we're going to do is actually then use the customer journey on the y-axis with whatever understanding of our customers or groups of customers are important to the business on the y-axis. And this creates the framework that allows us to understand exactly how a particular shopper should be treated differently throughout the customer journey. Now let's just look at some examples here. So in the context of a brand new or potential customer, and I've just picked a couple of sort of fairly innocuous profiles here to make the point, but a brand new potential customer, when they first land on the website, they've probably been motivated by an external event. They've come from somewhere, whether it's paid for advertising, maybe social media, but we don't know anything about that individual at that particular stage. We do, however, or we're very likely to know where they've come from. So actually being able to personalize on the referring source could be incredibly important. I mean, if we just think back for a second to personification, I'm not sure if there are any travel marketeers out there, but if you are marketing on social media platforms like Pinterest is a really good example, you can actually target based on specific travel personas as identified by Pinterest, whether someone's into family vacations, spa holidays, adventure holidays, or whatever it might be. And so being able to target based on the persona that's being targeted on these social media channels when people revisit or land on your website for the very first time is one of the first things that we can actually latch onto. Secondly, as someone moves through the stage, they've generated some awareness, they're going through a consideration phase. Again, we don't know anything about this person's behavior necessarily at the moment, but there are other personalization tactics that could be incredibly important. We do want to personalize based on source. Also, data capture could be incredibly important, especially in the current situation where there is an awful lot of net new traffic appearing on established and less established websites. It's really important to actually encourage these people to opt in to further communications, so you've got the opportunity to deepen the relationship with this shopper in future. So targeted data capture, let's get them to opt in, let's get them to sign up an account. Let's make that data capture very, very focused and personalized based on where someone's come from and what they're doing at that particular moment in time. Now, we may not have any behavioral or transactional data, but there are still types of personalized content that we can target at this potential new customer even at this stage. So trending products, what's hot, what's really active, what products are trending in specific categories. We can base product recommendations based on real-time activity, not what they've done in the past, but what are they doing at this particular moment in time. Inside of that, there are various other externalities that we can leverage without having any historical transactional behavioral data on the individual. What time of day is it? Is it first thing in the morning? Is it lunchtime? What's the weather like in their location? Where is their location? Are they in a particular country or a particular city, or is there, are they a certain distance away from the store? All of these external factors can be used with a potential new customer without actually knowing anything about the person's identity or anything about the individual. Now, when that new potential customer moves through the process and they go into this, what we call the decisional or transactional phase, there are different types of personalization that we can use here. We can promote a wish list. Customers that do use a wish list have been shown to have a much higher propensity to convert. Now, there's different types of ways that we can use urgency or social proof or user-generated content in the context of this profile of customer. For example, service reviews are always going to be much more potent when used in front of or with a potential customer. Just dropping down onto the loyal customer, these are customers that have already worked with you in the past. They've purchased many products from you, and they don't need to be told how good your service is. However, a potential customer that's never purchased anything in the past can really benefit from these types of user-generated content to develop trust in the brand. As we move through to loyalty and advocacy from a potential customer, here we're talking about a first-time transactor, and the objective here is to really drive the second transaction. This is going to involve different types of automated programs like post-purchase trigger program, a welcome email, through to more advanced follow-ups like replenishment programs for consumable products, the frequency of which can always be very accurately tied to the life cycle or the shelf life of the product that they may have purchased the first time round. With loyalty and advocacy with a first-time customer, it may be more wiser to focus on the driving of product reviews as opposed to service reviews. If we just drop down again to the loyal customer, if we know someone keeps buying and they haven't actually reviewed the service, then this is an opportunity to really drive positive service reviews above product level reviews that can be incredibly valuable. So just talking a bit more about the loyal customer. Of course, we are going to know more about these people. We're going to know what they've looked at. We're going to know what they've purchased. When they come through to the website, we hope that's based on existing awareness, and we haven't actually repaid for them to come back from a paid for channel. But as opposed to using trending products and really focusing on data capture, we can really swap out different types of personalization based on what we know about this specific individual. This could include things like the banner on the homepage. That could be based on gender, could be based on category of product. Actually, the whole navigation panel can be swapped out based on the category of product that this loyal customer has got more interest or more affinity with. Moving on to loyalty and advocacy, actually having people join loyalty schemes, showing highly loyal customers exclusive offers, and as we move through into like leveraging reviews, then that, as we mentioned, that can be much more effective to base the call to action on service level reviews rather than product level reviews, and even really try and incentivize or motivate social sharing. So I hope that was some serious food for thought. The personalization framework can be an incredibly useful starting point to work out exactly what it is you should be doing based on what it is you need to achieve, or based on your understanding of your customers. And of course the types of personalization that you really should be considering in the context of that framework really need to balance both the goals of the customer and also the goals of the business. So an event like this wouldn't be an event without someone using a quote from the great Seth Godin. And I just wanted to finish on this, and that is, this isn't really about finding customers for your products. When we are deploying an advanced personalization strategy across different channels, it's about finding what's right for your customers. And if I was just to add to Seth's quote here, it's finding the products for your customers that align with the customer's needs and also the business needs, so that what we're actually recommending are good for the client, are good for the business, and can actually be fulfilled and lead to a positive customer experience. So thank you so much for listening. I really hope that you had some takeaways from that. It would be great to speak to you individually, and I hope we do actually get round to speaking together one-on-one in the future. Thanks again for listening. Much appreciated.